With the stock market at record highs, are you prepared for the next downturn? Corrections can be unforgiving. Smart investors know diversification is the key to financial security. Noble Gold Investments make it easy to diversify with gold. With over $2 billion in sales, Noble Gold has helped thousands of Americans add gold to their portfolios. Open a qualified account today and receive 2 5-ounce Silver America the Beautiful coins as a thank you. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Don't let the next correction catch you off guard. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Breaking news. There's so much breaking news. Tulsi Gabbard confirmed as DNI director. We got Scott Bessent going to Ukraine, who might join the program in the second hour, planned to, but that might change. But major, massive breaking news. Some of the best news that I personally have seen since President Donald Trump got sworn in 3 weeks ago. President Donald Trump just posted on Truth Social, and we're going to go word for word for this because it's so important that he just had a highly productive phone call with Vladimir Putin from Russia. What we're about to read here is profound, substantive, and one of the most promising geopolitical developments since the Iraq War. It is one of the most promising things that I have seen and that we are experiencing in the pursuit of peace, American dominance, in the pursuit of fiscal sanity, in the pursuit of lives no longer being needlessly and senselessly slaughtered. So we're going to break this down word for word. This is breaking news in just the last 10 minutes here on the Charlie Kirk Show. Quote, this is President Trump writing about his phone call. I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Now, let me pause. Joe Biden would not be dialoguing directly with Vladimir Putin. He would go through back channels, if even that. According to Tucker Carlson, and according to many other people who have visited Russia, the Russian government would claim, and they're known to lie quite a lot, that they did not have a good way to contact the American government. We were not even talking to one another. Let me continue. President Trump writes, we discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar. Let me pause. President Donald Trump is bragging and forcefully putting forth an American dominance narrative right in Vladimir Putin's face. You see, a lot of people are going to say, oh, Donald Trump bent the knee. No. He's saying, oh, we have the power of the dollar. Why don't you use the dollar? This BRICS thing, we're going to break it apart. Donald Trump is showing American dominance right to Vladimir Putin's face. Let me continue. And various other subjects. This is one of my favorite parts. We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people and we likewise lost so many. The intel community and the consensus in Washington, D.C. is that you shall never say a good word about Russian history or culture. Oh, it's just a gas station with nuclear weapons. No, Russian culture and history is very deep, very complex, somewhat beautiful, somewhat dark. Some of the greatest authors have come from Russia. Some of the greatest composers, some of the greatest achievements of humanity have come from Russia. That's not a society that I would live in. They don't respect freedom of speech or liberty the way we do, but they're the first man in space, from Dostoevsky to the great composers, to Trotsky and so many others. This is not a culture that we should scoff at. This is not just a gas station with nuclear weapons. They were once a world superpower, and they still have a sense of pride. And yes, they stepped up and helped us defeat the Nazis. Continues here. We each talked about the strength of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. This is President Trump trying to offer, hey, why do we hate each other? And by the way, you're welcome to email me, freedom@charliekirk.com. Why do we hate Russia? Why is Russia an enemy of the United States? The cartels are an enemy of the United States. They're killing my neighbors in Scottsdale. The cartels are killing our fellow countrymen in Colorado, Ohio, every single day. I'm not saying we have to be best friends with Russia, but why do we hate Russia? Why do we hate them? Oh, they said angry things? They said mean things? What fundamental interest of ours is endangered by Russia? You can email me, freedom@charliekirk.com, and don't use abstractions. Don't say Putin's a bad man. What danger does Russia pose to us, except that we are close to a nuclear war because the former State Department was insistent on fighting them? A lot of countries do bad things. We do bad things. Our government has done bad things. Why do we hate Russia? No, seriously, make that argument. Come to our campus tour and tell me why we should be at war against Russia, because we basically are. We are at war with Russia via proxy. We have been in a hot kinetic war against Russia. And only thanks largely to Vladimir Putin's restraint do we not have missiles flying into America, because American missiles are flying into Russia. The whole Russian-Ukrainian project is largely built on, Vladimir Putin wouldn't do that. Well, I thought he's a madman that's going to march through Europe. So which one is it? Is that Vladimir Putin is going to march all through Europe tomorrow, like Adolf Hitler? Or is it that, don't worry, we can launch missiles into his hometown and do drone strikes in Moscow, but Vladimir Putin won't do that because he's smarter than that. So which one is it exactly? It's the Russian paradox. But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war in Russia-Ukraine. Now, I don't know if it's been millions of deaths, but if you count famine, starvation, people that have been displaced, millions of lives have been irreversibly damaged, casualties, at least 1 million. So that's spot on. President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto of common sense. Now, let me tell you how the media is going to do this. I'm going to do the Rush Limbaugh right now. The media is going to attack Donald Trump, saying that Vladimir Putin flattered Trump and tried to play to his ego by using campaign motto, and then Trump gave him the whole farm. That's a bunch of nonsense. Don't fall for that. Instead, you have a dialogue happening one-on-one, not intel agency to intel agency, not bureaucrat to bureaucrat, not administrative state to administrative state. You have principal to principal. You have leader to leader. And by the way, if Vladimir Putin is using common sense, he's right. There is no common sense for us to continue to supply American weaponry in Ukraine. Towards what aim and objective? We both believe very strongly in it. We agreed to work together very closely. Oh, and here's the big news, everybody. Woo, it's the big one. You ready? It's going to shake the very body politic of D.C. You can feel the trembling, the screaming, the rancor, the I can't believe they're going to do it. Oh, and I love this. This is my favorite part. We both agreed to visit each other's nations. That's right. President Donald Trump is going to go to Russia. You know who else went to Russia? Ronald Reagan went to Russia. So before you allow the media to propagandize you, Ronald Reagan visited Russia. That's right. Did you know that? During all the Cold War antagonism, Ronald Reagan stepped up like a baller and visited Russia. And yeah, Vladimir Putin should visit America. I don't know if he'll get a warm welcome or not a warm welcome, but I want to hear him out. I think Vladimir Putin should sit down for a long interview on the Charlie Kirk Show. I think Vladimir Putin should sit down with a long interview with Joe Rogan. I think Vladimir Putin should go to Austin, Texas, and sit down with Joe Rogan, and let's hear his side out. I don't think he'll be into the marijuana stuff, but you never know. Have a little back and forth. Go on the Joe Rogan experience. Come to our country. We will treat Vladimir Putin respectfully. Now, I'm not his biggest fan. By the way, there's Ronald Reagan going to Russia. So before all these apparatchiks on TV start screaming and caterwauling about, Trump's going to go to Russia, that's Ronald Reagan in the midst of the height of nuclear proliferation, visiting Russia. During all the caterwauling that we're going to go towards a nuclear apocalypse, that's Ronald Reagan visiting Russia. And I think Putin should come here. And he will be met with respect and honor and dignity. We're going to keep going through this because I've only made about halfway. But this is one of the more profound, promising developments against the insanity of this Russian-Ukrainian war that we've been involved in. And this is President Trump delivering not just on a campaign promise. This is above and beyond. This is Nobel Peace Prize stuff. This is major groundbreaking stuff. And the Mockingbird media, they're not going to know how to handle this. They're all purchased by the intel agencies and by the neoconservatives and the warmongers because they do everything they possibly can to try to get us into another unnecessary war. This is Trump at his best. This is peak Trump. This is 10 out of 10 Trump. This is why we worked so hard. This is why we chased ballots, why we registered voters. This is the Trump that we wanted in office. Uprooting all of the conventional norms, shaking up the matrix. Why can't we do that? Why not? And they don't have good answers. I cannot emphasize the profundity of what it will be for President Donald Trump to visit Russia. I think it's awesome. I think it is awesome. I think we'll show the Russian people that, no, we actually don't hate you. We're not at war with you. I don't want to kill Russians. Why do you want to kill Russians? If you do, there's something wrong with you, actually. I don't want to kill Ukrainians. What have they ever done to us? What? This is Trump at his best. It is 10 out of 10 Trump. This is why we work so hard to get him in office. That's why you work so hard to get him in office. That's why all of you guys knocked on doors and chased ballots and came to our Commit 100 program. Because we saw what Joe Biden and not Joe Biden, the senior staff of Washington, D.C. were doing with this Russia conflict. They were barreling us blindly towards maybe a nuclear conflict, but definitely a hot war, which we were already funding, financing, and heavily involved in. And Trump is a true believer in making a deal. Go to Russia? Why not? Why can't I do that? Reagan did that. Why can't I go to Russia? Oh, no, you can't do it. Same reason he went to North Korea. Go sit down with Vladimir Putin. Strike a deal. End the killing. You see, but D.C. is full of below average operator bureaucrats that are infected with the same disease. It's not about peace. It's about war. It's not about prosperity. It's about a quagmire. President Trump continues. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and will begin by calling Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something I'll be doing right now. By the way, I think this is all incredibly interesting timing. JD is at the Munich Security Conference this weekend. Woof. Oh, the shadow government and the deep state, they are not happy. They want more people dead. The shadow government's fine, 1 million people dead. Let me be as morally clear as I possibly can. Joe Biden rejecting peace deals that, by the way, would have been even better for Ukraine in 2022 than they are today in 2025, which got over 1 million people killed. Joe Biden will be responsible for one of the greatest crimes against humanity of this generation. Probably up there with George W. Bush. Completely senseless. And Joe Biden and Tony Blinken and Kamala Harris and that entire cabal of criminals, they said, oh, no, we can't broker peace. But now the peace deal that is on the table is far better for Russia than the one if they would have accepted that. And we told them in Istanbul, you got to take this deal. Oh, no, can't do that because we can't bend the knee to Russia. And these people are responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of women and children. I've asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's doing a great job, by the way. Great job. Marco Rubio, John Ratcliffe, Michael Walls, and more to lead negotiations. Steve Witkoff, I feel strongly we'll be successful. Millions of people have died in a war that never would have happened if I was president, but it did happen, so it must end. So no more lives should be lost. I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort with respect to this call, and for the release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House. By the way, here's the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Mark Fogel, Joe Biden didn't get him home. Right there, kissing the ground when he comes into America. And by the way, Zelensky says today that he hopes to finalize agreements with the United States at the Munich Security Conference that would ensure continued U.S. support for Ukraine as it fights Russian invasion. I'm totally against no more money for Ukraine. That's my stated position. You're on your own, buddy. End the war. We're not going to have another Afghanistan here. You're not coming into NATO. By the way, Pete Hegseth came out today and said, no NATO. But no guaranteed assurances for Vladimir Zelensky. This guy is laundering money in every possible direction. He's running guns, probably back to the Mexican drug cartels. There's some evidence to suggest that. He's an intel op. He wants war. I believe this effort will lead to a successful conclusion, and hopefully soon. This all comes down to a fundamental question. What do we want with Ukraine and Russia? When war broke out, we were so clear on this program. We were so clear that this is not going to end well. We asked the right questions, and unfortunately, 1 million people had to die to get us to the place here. Our long-term interest is clearly that we should be allies with Russia. Clearly. For our first 150 years, we were. And again, I want somebody to tell me, anyone in the intel operation, come up to me, please tell me, lawmaker, whatever, why do we hate Russia? Don't tell me because the CIA put you in some skiff and scared you with a bunch of woo-woo voodoo. Russia was an ally in the revolution. It was an ally in the Civil War. And yes, of course, they had the 1917 revolution, both in February and October of that year, that Vladimir Lenin led and changed that country profoundly. But when chips were down, we decided to ally with Russia against the Axis. We went into a Cold War, and then we won the Cold War, and we even said in a gesture we want them in NATO. Your allegiance should always be to your homeland, to your country. But just because the CIA tells you to hate Russia doesn't mean you need to hate Russia. President Trump is thinking outside the box for you, the American citizen, to avoid a senseless nuclear war.